Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby.
You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border. And then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on American soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. It's the American Anchor Baby speaking, and welcome to my show. I see you're all in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you so much. A little late. Apologies for that. Getting it going now. Nick's still selling those oranges in the bag at the stoplight. Hold up. Nick's helping his family getting over the border. And all sorts of Anchor Baby themed jokes in the chat. Very nice. Couple things to get into. Still a wild week, sort of. Maybe for some. Gonna get into the Allen, Texas shooters manifesto a little bit. Couple insights there. Nazi ideation, the non-white Nazis, the Mexican Nazis. Be careful, anybody could be a Nazi. So a little bit on that, as well as Trump's town hall. That was yesterday, last night. Thanks for everyone who joined me for the little flight that we took before it all came crashing down. There was two crashes. One was the Airbus A320neo hitting the side of a hill and rolling through a nice forest. It was violent. It was horrible. Yeah, about 80 to. I saw a bunch of souls in the chat. We lost all of them basically in that first crash. But thanks to everyone who joined me before the eventual computer crash. It was fun for a bit. Want to give you my take a little bit on the rest of the town hall. I did end up watching it. A couple moments there we're going to get into. It was nice to fly the Airbus A320 though. I remember early on, Nick's stream at the beginning, I was flying the Cessna Longitude. Has like a passenger capacity of around 12 to 16. I basically flew that thing until I had all the way up to 50, 70 viewers. So I'm grateful flying the Airbus 320 with a passenger capacity of 125 plus. We're getting there, y'all. Maybe eventually we'll fly the 747 big boy. Anyways, if you ever want to catch one of those, make sure you're following me here, American Anchor Baby on YouTube and Rumble. I am live on Rumble, rumble.com/American Anchor Baby, as well as Twitter and all that. Make sure you're following. We got nice things coming down the pipeline, slowly but surely. I'm kind of slow, y'all. All right, y'all. So, just checking the chat here. And as well as your calls, 888-775-3773. You can call in. So, am I getting some messages here? Okay, I'll deal with that later. All right, so as you know, this past Saturday, a gunman entered a mall in Allen, Texas. 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia. Let's see if I have all my media. Is my media set up? Yeah. 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia shot and killed 8 people, wounding 7 others. Killed at the scene by this Allen police officer who'd been on call nearby. And all the reports as of yet, they all say authorities have not announced a possible motive, although new details about Garcia have emerged. And you heard from the beginning about this Nazi ideation, Nazi this, Nazi that. Apparently he had a tattoo. Apparently he had a Nazi tattoo, and that's what kind of started it all. And then there was reports of his posts, online posts, as well as a note that he left, as well as other postings, alleged posts he made on an alleged account of his online. And they're talking about Nazi ideation. First I've heard of that phrase. Nazi ideation seems nebulous and blurred lines and borders. You got to hand it to them. These people loved blurring the lines, whether it's a border, a gender, anything. But Nazi ideation, first I've heard of it. It's a nice way of being able to pigeonhole someone in a umbrella term. But anyways, the media continues to speculate about this man's ideation, right? They call him a white supremacist. And they all say, all these reports, they all say what we know about the Slain, Texas, whatever. And that's what they use. Look, CNN, what we know. And they all say what we know. But do they really know anything? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just pointing it out because we're going to get into what they allegedly know. And one of the things that they're sure of is that this shooter was, posted about Nazis, but as well as that, besides the white supremacy and Nazi tags they've given him, they've concluded, and this is not a new conclusion, but you can see here, white supremacists don't have to be white. Okay? And we've seen this idea kind of thrown around of non-white people espousing the wrong idea, being called white supremacists. Who was called the black face of white supremacy? Black face of white supremacy. Was that the one and only Larry Elder? Yes. Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy, if you remember that. So, not new. Thanks, Hake. Not new, but it's around, and that's kind of being pushed. Okay, it's not, these people, these POCs, there's two kind of like flavors to it. Poor POCs who couldn't help but be radicalized by the whiteness around them, or just straight up Nazi, self-hating Saldivars. What did that guy call me? Some caller called me a name of the Mexican woman who killed Selena Saldivar. Basically trying to say that I was a traitor to my race, the way that this Saldivar woman was a traitor to Selena. Kind of a weak connection. I'd say try harder, Yolanda. So anyways, Yolanda Saldivar. and right away, like for example, Hassan Piker. Do you know who Hassan Piker is? Arguably one of the most popular online political commentators, especially with young people, wildly popular Twitch streamer, YouTuber, and just following the same vein of thought. Nazi. Here he is, a thumbnail of his latest video. Another shooting, another Nazi, trying to express understanding of the situation, what we know of the shooter. And as we're going to get into it here, you'll see that they don't know. They don't really know. And in this thumbnail, you see a picture. It's apparently of Garcia. And here are those Nazi tattoos. Swastika on the left of his chest. It looks like a SS tattoo on his right arm. And so this is the general kind of view of it prevailing even today. If you just do a quick little Google search. Okay? But I did a little searching trying to find out kind of the exact words, exact postings of this individual. And right away, the searching for this was difficult. Just Googling Mauricio Garcia manifesto, Mauricio Garcia handwritten note, Mauricio Garcia this or that. I got to say, I got to say, and I see your calls coming in. Thank you for holding. I will be with you. Don't just hold on. You got to see. I'm describing how difficult it was to find this, despite where I eventually found it was a New York Post article. Pretty big publication. Shouldn't be that difficult to find using these buzzwords, but eventually I found it. At least parts of it. It was still harder to find other things. But getting into this manifesto, it's not just a manifesto. This Mauricio Garcia has a wide range of postings across social media over time, as well as a handwritten note left in a memory card, a suicide letter, some are calling. And so let me see if I can pull it up. Manifesto. Yeah. Texas mall shooter Mauricio Garcia's twisted diary revealed paranoia, racism, and sick fantasies. Okay? And as we get into some of this post here, the New York Post describes the journal entries apparently written by this Garcia, detailing hatred towards women, several races, including his own Hispanic background, and a perverse devotion to the Aryan race. And that's how they open up. That's how they open this up. Okay? New York Post, some say sometimes a little bit more conservative and all that. I don't know about that. Pretty much most of the time goes along with media lies. But you don't have to believe me. Let's get into it. You can see for yourself. This is how they open up this thing, right? His perverse devotion to the Aryan race. Demented rants include messages supporting Nazism, reminiscing about when he became a full-blown white supremacist. And then we start getting into the man's life a little bit, because this is where I start reading some of his actual posts. And it's about his time in the military. You see, he was in the military. Here's a picture of Garcia's Nazi tattoos. What else do I got here? Diary of a psychopathic kid, a psychopathic child. Sorry. And this is the front cover of a diary, handwritten diary, purported to be of this shooter, Garcia. And in here we have some actually written letters. Some actual written letters. And so I started getting into those letters, reading them, and he describes his time in the military and how he met white people in the military. And he reads here, I then joined the army when I got to boot camp. It was like that scene in Wind Talkers, I believe. Never seen that movie. I have never been around so many white people, says the shooter, writes the shooter allegedly. And you know what? They weren't the racists the media made them out to be. I then met actual white nationalists, and that's when I became a full-blown white supremacist. Okay? One of my white friends actually said, I'm not a racist compared to you. So two racists for the whites, not racist enough for the too white for the blacks, too black for the whites. Not getting along a little bit, a little too spurging out a little too much for some of his white compatriots here. And we start getting a little bit of a picture of his life. And so let me continue here with some more images of the letters and what he wrote here, and then I'll kind of put it all together. He goes on. Yeah, this is the army one. It was a double-edged sword. These two Hispanics dropped me like a hot tamale when they found out about my beliefs. White dude, and this white dude who I got into it with later started, what is he? I can't read that. Started falling around when he started calling or falling or something around when he found out about my politics. So, a little too extreme, even though he made some white nationalist friends. Where's this first letter? Darn those, what does he write here? He writes about Dragon Ball Z. What's up with these? Mexicans love Dragon Ball Z. And I don't blame you. I don't know if you guys really get how deep Dragon Ball Z is. That's an episode for another time. But Mexicans love Dragon Ball Z. He talks about white people here. Darn those idiots. Don't they care about the future of their race, their life, children? Everything has to be done for them. When are you going to grow up? Can't you Aryans do anything by yourselves? Darn those Aryans. Maybe they're not worth saving. Aryans of the world, raise your hands up right now or you are all going to die, he asks them. So, describing he's describing what he sees going on with white people and their decline. Anyways, another excerpt here. He writes, I used to think of myself as Benny from the movie Sandlot, an all-American kid who just happens to be not white. I'm just a visitor, he continues. I'm Hispanic, whether I like it or not. And you start understanding his issues with identity a little bit. And I've spoken about this a little bit about myself, being an anchor baby and having an interesting history with what my parents did, coming to this country, eventually moving up to Canada, and my, life throughout all that. And I never felt, honestly, I can't relate. I never really felt like, oh, I don't belong here or there due to race, because I was never really, I guess, into it. But even now, understanding my situation, understanding all that, I still don't identify with any of these words, yet understanding, it's like I know I'm an anchor baby, but I don't identify with that. I don't get offended if someone wants to bring it up. So I've spoken a little bit about that, and you see the other side of that. Someone who never realized that they shouldn't identify with these terms. Someone who was never told that angry people, they hate, and they hate you, and they call out your identity, what you look like. But in reality, the root is their hatred and their own problems. Someone who never understood those things, you see the other side, they start getting resentful. They start feeling alienated. And he says, I'm Hispanic whether I like it or not. Unsure of whether he likes it or not. And I've spoken about this before. I remember speaking about my name, for example. I remember looking at my birth certificate and seeing a little accent on top of the A. And that's my name. My name is Nicolas. That's what my mama named me that. And I like it. Yet at the same time, I don't feel identified with La Raza. And so I don't have a hang up like that and get angry and have to take sides when these issues come up inside of my mind or outside in conversations or whatever. Am I making sense here? You still following me? So he goes on, he describes different things here. He goes on, he writes about the Aryans. If they ever decide to, let me see if I have more media here. Okay. If the Aryans ever decide to take back America, they're not going to have a hard time, he writes. Every time I'm about to fight another Hispanic, they just like umbrellas, they fold. All talk. He writes also, I have to tip my hat off to William Travis, James Bowie, and David Crockett. These were all figures in the Texas Revolution, okay? The events leading up to the Mexican-American War, Treaty of Hidalgo, Guadalupe, which gave America California, etc. And so he writes, I have to give a hat tip to those men. They were definitely worthy adversaries. That's why white America might beat Mexico in the Second Mexican-American War, he speculates. If Mexico takes over the U.S., I don't want to share the spoils with these other loser races, he says. I don't even want to share in the spoils with other Latinos, Cubans, Puerto Ricans. I'm a child of the corn that likes to munch on beans and tortillas. You know how hard it was to find this? I remember hearing some loser white-hating Mexican guy telling Hispanic men to get with a white girl so they don't have white babies. Stupid MFer, that's the dumbest ish I ever heard. I'm cleaning it up a bit. I am not taking one for the team and getting with a B word from a race I don't like. So wait a second. He doesn't like the white people here? So it's unclear. It's unclear. He shows overreactions with conversations of his peers of all races, white people, Mexicans. He shows extreme. I don't want to say extreme. He shows just like a reaction, instant kind of like, I'd say angry reaction, in my opinion, to these conversations with whatever race of people who disagree with him. we're seeing here in his own writings. There's no way in hell I would ever sleep with the women of a race I hated. It says hated, past tense, still unclear, unless it was rape, which is pretty extreme. If he hates someone, he's, from what I could tell, from what I'm reading here, that he would only do it if it was rape, because he hates that race, that he would never sleep with unless it was rape. So wishing harm on them. So it starts coming. If you're following at all, reading, hearing what I'm saying that were the words of Garcia allegedly, you start, and as we're examining this here, it's becoming quite clear that he's got issues. Anger starts becoming the main idea here. And you'd have to be, I would even say, stretching it to say that what he was reading and watching was what radicalized him here to the point to commit that shooting. Let me go on here if you still don't believe me. And at other times, Garcia reportedly calls himself an incel, short for involuntary celibate. He writes about women who had crushes on him, professing his love for certain girls he appeared to know, saying he... Oh, I don't want to read that. Gross stuff he did to himself while thinking about them. And imagining himself in heroic terms whenever he interacted with them. In one entry titled 10-6, October 6th, The Day of Awesome, Garcia describes how two girls were sympathetic toward him after he had injured his foot and had been in hospital for treatment. This guy was a major simp. This guy was a total incel simp. You know, some of these incels, they'll be like, yeah, maybe they'll even be, you know, related to 𝒔𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒐, men going their own way, not going to deal with women anymore. These incels, from what I could tell, I've perused some of the forums. From what I could tell, the incels admitting that they're involuntarily celibate due to factors outside of their control, they still ultimately desire the not incel life. They desire you know, to be slut makers. They desire that life, but they just can't have it. And so, ergo, simps, at least some of them, right? Especially if you're acting like this, calling it the day of awesome, just when two girls show some sympathy towards you because you're hurt. Professing love. Dude, stop. Why is it that a bunch of these shooters are like this? If we're going to be focusing on ideation, I don't want to say, no. I'm not saying, okay, anyone espousing incel stuff is a mass shooter, but haven't we seen this commonly in some of these shooters? They express a wrong relationship with women and sex. Straight up. I know Hake doesn't like that black term, but I've been blackified. Sorry. Straight up, though. A lot of these, they have a wrong relationship with women, sex, and what do we know about that? If you got a wrong relationship with women and sex, it started somewhere. Mama, the home. Have you guys been paying attention? Or are you guys just sitting there listening to the JLP show, having a good old laugh? So, let me finish this up here and I'll get to your calls. Garcia's page featured several photos of people wearing swastikas. He said he called these people my kind of people. So he thought Nazis were cool. Garcia's stepfather told the Daily Beast Monday he and his family want ancestors. Stepfather is a little part of the article way at the bottom. All the way at the bottom. Garcia's stepfather. Broken home, y'all. Someone needed to do the strap test on this young man in his earlier life. Shout out to my glizzas. But the stepfather. Look, we don't know. I don't know beyond this little line at the bottom of this New York Post article that describes this stepfather, but the fact that there is one emblematic of the broken home in the country. It's not. It bears repeating. You hear it before. You hear it. It's almost repeated to ad nauseum, but we must ignore the ad nauseum, if that makes sense, because this is right here in front of us. It's broken, the broken home and everything that's come out of it. And here's a big angle on this whole thing is that this Garcia guy liked a lot of conservative content. He describes liking Tim Pool, libs of TikTok, and I believe others as well. And so they're blaming that. That's the big blaming. Joe from Phoenix is salivating hearing that this guy named certain conservatives that he likes because he's one of those people, this Joe guy, frequent caller of the shows on the JLP network. He's one of those guys who believes that people like Jesse and their ideation, their espousing their ideology will eventually create one of these people that will kill someone in Jesse's name, and then will you repent and whatever. I might be adding words. I might be putting words into Joe's mouth. But that's kind of like the angle here that you're getting from the media, liberal media. But we just went through a bunch of this, right? And we see Garcia responding in anger to people in his life, Mexicans and the white people who just didn't get it, calling them names and all these things. Incel, weird mama, woman stuff, broken home, alienation, not fitting in anywhere, was discharged from the military because of mental stuff. In his head, assuming stuff about people, angry, talking about killing and death in some of these manifesto excerpts. Here's the thing. People who are anger like that aren't with us. They're actors, paid actors. You know what I mean? Straight up, like people who speak like that, people who and I understand people are trying to get over their anger too, so I understand. I'm not talking about you guys, but people who justify anger, use that language, even unknowingly. We got to pay attention to the things we say. We unknowingly use a lot of interesting language, myself included. I said something interesting on my show the other day about not wanting to appear phony. Like, think about that language. If you're just not phony, you won't be phony. But that's besides the point. A little bit of a tangent. This guy, anybody speaking with like that, justifying anger, is not with us. So even if they say all the right conservative things, they say they support Trump, they say they're a Christian. If a vegetarian, if someone told you they were vegetarian but ate meat all week, what does that tell you? So a little bit on that. And here's another thing, too. Aubrey Hale. You remember Aubrey Hale? Back in March, 28-year-old Aubrey Hale entered a private Christian school armed and shot 9-year-olds. 9-year-old children. You got to be messed up to do something like that. Well, it was revealed that this person was a transgender, had written a manifesto and all that. Well, a little recap of the time period, okay? This is back in March. Reports started coming in that of this manifesto, there were calls for it to be released. It was held up a little bit. Metro Nashville police saying, reportedly in March, saying it's being held up. Then it was revealed. Reports started coming in that the release was being held up by the FBI. The FBI calling it a blueprint for total destruction as a reasoning for not putting out this manifesto. Then it came out as the cops are holding it up for review, but it will be. But after some public outcry, that it will be released. Of course, heavily redacted. Of course, nobody mentions that. Now, it's being held up again in litigation. Do I have some pics here? Audrey Hale. Nashville Christian school shooter Audrey Hale manifesto to be released after cop review. So this was after the outcry, after the FBI. And so now it's being held up so it was back and forth a little bit, and now it's being held up. Okay, hold on. And now, here's the headline. Police announced manifesto of Nashville transgender mass kill shooter won't be released soon. It's being held up, apparently, by litigation by some sheriff, okay? Not quite clear. but Metropolitan Nashville Police Department is holding it up due to pending litigation filed by some sheriff. Okay, and it's interesting to note. A little interesting to note, it was framed that it was up to the FBI. It was being held up at the FBI. But now it's the Metro Nashville Police. What's up here? Can't trust the process on anything. What's going on here? If it's so important for the ideology of a mass shooter to be thoroughly examined in the hopes of understanding, stopping, or predicting, if it's what this shooter watched and listened to that radicalized them, then why aren't we getting it from Hale? Is it not the exact same thing? The importance of finding out the truth here to stop the deaths of these children, right? Because it's not really about, well, two things. We already know this. It's not about ideology here. It's about anger, okay? It's about the sickness of the soul, the sickness of the mind and soul, spiritual illness. We know this. In our hearts, we know this. And so it really isn't about that, but also there's the strategic importance of these shootings and all that. You've seen the DOJ, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, say that is the biggest threat in America today, the threat of white supremacy. So anytime this is a shooter or someone like that is connected to those things, the Democrats, the media that is behind the Democrats, and of course the compromised Republican Party working with the Democrats, they love it because it's strategically important. They've already named their enemies, the white supremacists and all that. Now let's start hooking up ideologies, hooking up Trump, hooking up all of the people who are not shooters to things like this so that they can say, see, I told you people who think like this should be, are evil, shouldn't vote, should be jailed, should be this or that, should be censored on social media, should be barred from running for office. It's a big game, and they don't really want to get down to the truth of it. Because if they did, they would deal with the family. They would deal with anger. And they could. They really could. We see in almost every aspect now, after following politics these past few years, I can see now, it seems like in every aspect, there is a solution that is just danced around, like the border. They could tomorrow deal with it. Ukraine. Anyways, let me get back to this. Finish this up real quick. I will get to you, caller. Thank you so much for holding. You don't need to examine ideology. Not like this. Unless you're examining the ideology to have the insight of understanding of what the person's kind of like spiritual, mental state was, to see if they hated, anger. And of course, it's clear. You don't even need to do that. The fact that someone would do something like this, shooting such as this, tells you that. So you don't need to examine their YouTube watch history, okay? Dakota News Now saying source investigators examine ideology. And if the people who wanted to examine the ideology and really get down to it, that's fine. But they ignore how hate is pushed, racism, division, and politics, justification of anger of certain groups. This is a racist system. And justifying anger. You can't have both. You see what I'm saying here? So the people who wanted to get down to the truth of this manifesto were also understanding where anger comes from and wanted to get down to and fix the family and all that. Well, then I would understand. But the fact that the media and experts aren't dealing with the root of hatred tells you they're not really about the truth here. Anyways. And you got to understand the hypnotic nature of the mind. It's not him watching these videos. The hypnotic nature of the mind. You ever notice that what you think about or what you try to avoid thinking about is what you end up doing? That's what an obsession is, replaying in the mind. And as we know, some of you may not believe this, but the mind is the devil's playground. And he's feeding us those obsessions. It's not even from us. It's an evil spirit. That's amazing to realize. If only Mauricio Garcia knew that. So how do you get away from the thoughts? Because you realize what I'm talking about, right? It replays in your mind and you end up doing those things. Well, how do you get away from the thoughts? Number one, you have to want it. You have to want to get away from them. Because if you want to, like truly in your heart want it, that means you're being honest with God. That means you want to forgive, and you probably already have done it because you really want it. Like truly. You don't have to tell anyone. And then you do the work of being vigilant and watching those thoughts, because at that point you know that they're not you. An example of that, I was talking about this yesterday, about glorifying stuff. People don't realize that a lot of us in this chat, people and Christians, JLP listeners who want to overcome the ego and stuff, they don't realize when in their language they're glorifying the very things they're trying to get rid of. You know what I mean? They'll be like, about pot or about this or that. It's like, realize that you're doing those things that you don't want to do, but at least don't glorify them. That's another trick of the mind to keep you obsessed. Just a little bit of my report on this Allen, Texas guy. It's a whole joke, man. Look, let me get into some calls here before I ramble on and on about this story here. What are y'all saying here? Oh, you know what? Before I get to my call here, thanks for the patience. I want to shout out the Super Chats. Thank you for that. Your support is always appreciated. I believe someone Super Chatted. And I also didn't get to some supers from the last show. I got one from 900 credit CSAL. Dang, CSAL, when'd you become 900 credit CSAL? Hispanic ladies holding it down says, no Hispanic man has a diary. What the? Yeah, what the heck? He really was a white supremacist. Lord Bibby42 with the super chat, first class super chat, says, Yolanda murdered Selena's, but she nice. Nice. Selena. I always think of that movie with J-Lo. 900 credits CSAL with another super chat says, Nicholas is Nicolas. I don't know if she spelled it Nicholas. You could call me Nicholas. You could call me Nick. I don't mind. Nicholas is the brown face of brown supremacy. Heart emojis. Nice. Hey, in another reality, maybe I would have spurged out and became some kind of that's really weird speculation. I'm mostly out of comedy. Not trying to say I would have been a shooter. Latina in Cali with the super chat says, funny how a hater always watching you like a stalker. Yeah, almost like they can't help it. You don't hate me, you love me. In that fallen way of hating/loving. And I believe a super chat from the last show. Was it last show? Yesterday? Oh, no, I read this. Renesio, if you're in the chat, I got you. I got your super chat, man. We're always here. Hit me up if anything's going on. Nice. Let me get to Zeus out of Florida. Go ahead.
What's up?
What's up, Zeus? Thanks for your call.
Definitely. So yesterday I was listening and while I was working, because I usually listen while I work, and I guess one of your callers inspired me to call you about something I wanted to call you about on your first show.
Nice.
But I was working, so I couldn't. Shout out to 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. I see you.
Oh, nice.
So on your first show, and I may have this wrong, so if I have this wrong, please correct me.
No worries, hit me.
That if you were in charge, you would deport all the ankle babies.
Yeah. Let's go.
And
I would self-deport along with them.
Well, here's the thing. I'm an ankle baby too, Nick.
Oh, yeah? Your parents?
Yeah, I am.
Your parents were illegals?
They're all my mom, my dad, and my grandma, all of them Mexicans.
They came in illegally, and then they had you.
So the way I believe it is my grandma came in. I don't know. I never asked her. That's kind of an awkward conversation. But from what I understand, my grandma came over, maybe illegally, maybe legally. I'm not sure. And so my mom was born in Mexico, and they came over when my mom was like probably in middle school.
Okay.
So I don't know the details on that, but I am an ankle baby because my mom's not an American citizen, and my stepdad, one time when they were fighting, he's like, you wouldn't even be here in this country if it wasn't for him. And he called me an ankle baby, like literally while they were
Shout
fighting.
out. What's up, anchor baby, brother? But listen, man, you got your citizenship is the validity of your citizenship is in question. I don't know if you know about the 14th Amendment.
Well, I do. I was born here, right? So I'm a citizen.
But you were never meant to have that citizenship due to the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment had nothing to do with being born here, a foreigner having a child here, and that foreigner's child being naturalized into a citizen. It had to do with slaves, freed slaves.
So then I'm not a citizen, according to you.
No,
I didn't know that. I don't.
No, you
research.
are a citizen. Like legally, you're a citizen. So am I. It's just an interesting conversation, don't you think?
It is.
And I'm not saying.
I was working.
Go ahead.
I was working. I was painting a fence, and I heard this, and I was like, man, I want to call, but obviously I'm busy. And it's interesting. So that same weekend, I had a conversation with a white liberal, and he told me something along the same lines. He's like, if Trump got in, he would deport you, even though you're a legal citizen. And I will answer
I doubt that
the same way I will answer you. I don't care because I serve the will of God, not the will of some man. So if Trump got in 2024 and he's like, oh, I'm going to deport you, I would just be like, hey, I voted for you twice. I'm voted for you 2024, so 3 times. I've been to 2 of your rallies, including January 6th. And if you deport me, I wish you well. I'll go to Mexico and start my life there and just see what God has in store for me.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, see, there you go. See, I feel the same way.
And it's about not having hate. Like, if that's what it is, that's what it is. Don't hate them. I wish you well. Move on and do what's up with your life. God will take care of you regardless.
Man, that's so true. Bingo. That's how I feel. People have asked me the same thing. It's weird to think about the future in that way because I don't plan. Like, it's such a weird thing to plan for. Like, what if they deport you? Then you start getting into your head about a bunch of stuff that don't make sense. That doesn't make sense. But if that happened, then that's just something that you deal with that's right in front of you. Are you on this? Are you on the same page with me on that one?
I am, and that's the thing is like the only reason I even thought about that future scenario is I'm sitting there painting my fence, and then you said that, and I thought, well, what would happen if I got deported? Mm-hmm. And so in my mind, don't have anger. It is what it is. I'll move on. And the thing about it is, growing up, I have no association with Mexico, and that's where my family's from, right? But I have, and so whenever I say that, people are like, well, that's your culture. You don't agree with illegal immigration? That's your culture. And it's like, that's not my culture. My culture is America.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up. I barely speak Spanish. I understand it very well because of my grandma. But that's the thing is I have no real associations with Mexico. So let's say America and Mexico go to war tomorrow. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit at home watching on the news like everyone else. I'm not going to get involved because it's none of my business.
Yeah, and look, I understand what you're saying about you grew up here. If I were to drop you in Mexico, the Mexicans there would be like, hey, you might look like us, but you're kind of not from here. And so I understand
that's the thing.
That's why I've always said, sorry, I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
You get it from both sides. You get it from them, the Mexicans or the brown people, because you're not like them. And then you get it from from the Americans who don't think you're American. And I've learned that.
That's why as an individual, it's at that moment that you realize, it's at that moment that you be an example about being an individual. But going on what you're saying here, that's why I've always thought, you know what? Let's say the white people want their country back, they take it back or whatever, and they kick me out or something. My point being, it's like, yes, I'm a guest. Yes, I grew up here. Yes, I don't identify as a Colombian or whatever, and I would be a stranger over there. But should they do that, it's like, as a guest, let them figure it out and let the chips fall where they may. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like you agree with me on that. Now, being specific, being clear here, though, I highly doubt that would happen. At least not first. Like it would be first dealing with the illegals coming here and maybe the ones that are already here. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be first dealing with them. getting to the point of
and that's-
deporting, retroactively getting rid of citizenships of, anchor babies, 14th Amendment kind of stuff. I don't know if let's get rid of the illegals first. That might be too hard of a pill for some to swallow. Personally, I'm not against it.
No doubt. And it reminds me of something else. So there was a show where I was listening, and it was like during that time where you were covering for Hassan, and some caller called in. I believe it was either Jamaica or one of those island places, and he was like, "My culture is Jamaica," and I remember Jesse saying, "Don't draw your culture from anything on earth," because it's like, and it's the same way with America, with being a Christian or even being a conservative. Like, in the end, I draw my alignment with good. I'm on the side of good. I worship and trust God. And all that other stuff, I think, is just titles. So I'm not taking a side as far as, like, obviously I'm doing what I can to keep America alive. Like, I'm voting Trump. I watched the stream yesterday because I don't have cable. And, man, I was enjoying it. I was out here, just enjoying it.
You were talking about my stream last night?
Yeah. And then you crashed,
nice,
and it was funny because I wanted you to crash 3 times, but you only got 2.
I got the plane back up in the air. Hey, next stream will be back. I got to work on that, guys. But thank you for that. It was cool that you guys showed up last night.
It was fun, too. I enjoyed it anyway.
We'll do it again.
All I'm saying, at the end of the day, my alignment is I do the will of God, and, like, I'm just trying to live my life now, and whatever is going to happen, I'll deal with it in the moment. Regardless, if say I get deported tomorrow, let's go. If I get arrested, no big deal. Like, say, because, like, they've been, like, with Trump, how they put these false charges on him. Say you're someone who agrees with good, and they try to do that to you. At the end of the day, it is what it is. Live in the moment and just serve God, and He'll provide, regardless of the situation.
Love it, Zeus. That's the attitude of the anchor baby. Right on.
Definitely. And I don't know what JC call you like a disgrace to the Mexicans or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not Mexican. I'm American, but my heritage is Mexican, I guess. My mom, my grandma, my dad. And you ain't a disgrace to me, Nick. I enjoy your show.
Thank you,
I try
sir.
to watch it when I can. Sometimes I don't make it. And that's just how it is. You know what I mean?
Nice, man. Well, thank you for that. And call me again.
Definitely. Have a good one. Wish you well. Later.
Peace. Moving the wheels. Why would I care about being a disgrace to Mexicans anyways? Mexicans today are a total disgrace. Why would I want to be graceful in their eyes? Well, many of us are, aren't we? That's why you got to be an individual. This guy, this Mauricio Garcia guy had a total identity hang-up. Total identity hang-up. That's why I say immigrants here, anchor babies, you can, like, understand your situation and then be removed from it. I had some other thoughts about this topic too, but they've flown away. They're gone now. So let me get to CSAL, Washington State. Thanks for your call. Go ahead.
Hola, Nicolás.
Hola.
Can you hear me?
We're busting out the Spanish. Right on.
Yeah, so I just wanted to call. It's nothing like super deep or anything, but this whole conversation of the identity, I went through that. Obviously, I was raised in a border town in Arizona. So we had, sometimes we went to church in Mexico, and so I did have a lot to do with the Mexican side, you know?
Yes.
But I lived and I went to school and everything in the United States, so I did have all those thoughts like, oh, you know, what am I? Am I Mexican? Am I American?
Totally.
Blah, blah. And it's crazy because when you forgive, like after I forgive my mother, I had the conversation with her and blah, blah, it's like your eyes are open. And like when you read the Bible, it's the Holy Spirit, I feel like, reminds you a whole bunch of stuff. Like this conversation, I'm thinking right now, I'm reminded, I'm not sure where it's at, but I know it's the New Testament. And when Jesus was in that house and the disciples were like, hey, Jesus, your mom and your brothers are outside. They want to talk to you. And Jesus was like, who is my mom and my brothers? You know, those that do the will of the Lord or of my Father that is in heaven, they are my brother and my father and my mother. So he knew, I mean, people have had these identity or they want to, you know, group with somebody or, you know, this is my family, this is my culture, this is my race, this is my nation, blah, blah, blah. And Jesus was like, no, you should group or you should identify, if we identify, right, with God.
Beautiful.
with God,
Yeah.
with our spiritual family per se.
So true.
Yeah,
true.
so that's all I wanted to say, and it's a beautiful thing, and this has nothing to do with the conversation, but I would get way too nervous calling Jesse. Obviously, I'm nervous right now, but
well, you can talk to Nick anytime.
but I can talk to Nick anytime.
It's just Nick.
It's just Nick. So, but I was thinking, I started listening to you guys. Thank God I found you guys years ago. I don't know, like 5-6 years ago. And honestly, a lot of things that I used to hear Jesse say were somebody saying. I was like, what? No, that can't be. Because he's like, the nicer a woman is, or the nicest people are the most evil. And I'm like, that makes no sense. If they're nice, it's because they're nice. No.
Not so much.
As years go by,
notice nice people have, if the mass, like every nice person I've met, if you can get close enough to them, they'll tell you what they really think about people. And
they're
it's not
ruthless.
nice. They're ruthless.
And the more time goes by, everything Jesse says, it's true. I have them in the back of my mind. Like I disagree with him on this and this and that, and then boom, a year goes by or something happens, and it's true. And I'm like, oh, and I get reminded. Oh my God, you know what I mean? So, having your eyes open to how life really is beautiful, and I'm just really, really happy, and I'm super blessed. My marriage is blessed. I'm a much better wife, a much better mother because of the work that you guys do, you know, not paying attention to the emotions and the insane feelings. So,
yeah. That's
thank
cool
you
that
so
you're
much.
doing that work. I always see you in the chat. You've called me before. We had a very interesting conversation about the homogeneity of the area you grew up in. Very Mexican,
Right.
but no crime.
Right,
It was
yeah.
quite interesting. You know, it's cool to see this, 𝒐𝒊. Nice. Very true what you're
Yeah.
saying. It's if Mauricio Garcia had this, things might be different. And it's deep what you're saying about Christian identity.
And that could have been any of us, you know, because
Yeah.
I feel like those identity traps, that's what they are. They're traps like alcoholism, drug addiction.
Yeah.
We all could have been there, you know, so I understand when Jesse's like, don't judge. Yeah, don't judge because that could have been me, I guess.
Thank you, 𝒐𝒊. Right on.
Anyway, thank you. Moving the wheels.
Moving the wheels. Call me again, 𝒐𝒊. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Right on. Okay, callers, just keep holding. I'll be right with you. Let me do this next story here. But it's true what you say. I mean, think about that. We're talking about identity, overcoming it all. And I know that it was like something in the Bible says about, yeah, your real family is Christianity, which kind of, I guess that sounds like, I guess you should have an identity, and it should be Christianity. I don't quite see it like that. My understanding, and it's still not there, but as it gets deeper, of Christianity is the letting go of identities. And what remains is just the truth. And the truth unites people. The truth, uniting the races with truth. And even though you shouldn't be immigrating, the nations were separate for a reason. The races were separate because God made them that way. Even though all that's true, God takes the old things, the bad things, and makes them new and makes them right. Marriages that came together in hate and anger, I've seen, here on the show on JLP, the old things become new and they figure it out. And they overcome the anger, overcome the false identity with each other. The men overcome the women. And so as it is with marriages, false marriages or whatever, and angry people, it could be with the country. Though the races and all that and the cultures and languages should be separate, it's here now. God can make the old things new. That's why the idea of Christianity controlling the nation makes sense to me. Can't make everyone Christian and all that fair, but imagine, like I said, taking the old things, making them new. You can even do that with a country full of different races and all that, although it shouldn't have been that way. Kind of rambling here, but you follow me, right? Making a little bit of sense. That's why when you hear things about, for example, like umbrella terms, like nationalists, Christian nationalists, or Western, or conservative, it all pales in comparison to the Christianity that we would like to see, right? We're not forcing anyone to be that way, but the kind of Christianity we'd like to see that, right? Right? We'd like to see that, right? We'd like to see a Christian nation just a little bit, right? Kind of control the people a little bit, even if they don't totally believe it. It might control the people a little bit and make America great again, right? And with that Trump impression, we can get into this town hall from last night. 70 minutes of tense sparring with CNN moderator Caitlin Collins, as Daily Mail describes it. And I was a little late getting the Today's Show together. And, I was trying to get the show kind of all my notes nice for today's show. And I basically couldn't finish here on the town hall. So it'll be a little loosey-goosey. Let's go down this Daily Mail article, see if it reminds me of moments, reminds me of a couple of moments from last night, and then I can comment on them. It'll be a little bit loosey-goosey. What do I got here on the media tablet? Hail Hooters. What's Hooters? Oh, yeah. It was this picture of Mauricio Garcia with the Hooters woman. Apparently, Mauricio Garcia. Simp! Look, hey, let's move on. We already moved on from this. But what's next here? A clip I have named Hanky Panky. Uh-oh. It's about Trump. Okay, let's go down this article here, see if it can jog my memory. But yeah, 70 minutes of intense sparring with this Caitlin Collins. Something I noticed of this Caitlin Collins woman, the way she spoke a lot reminded me of the way Jesse speaks when I try and give him information in his ear. Conspiracy theory from me, okay? Speculation. I can't know. But the way it was very jarring and not organic, the way she would cut him off and put in like fact checks and stuff. It felt a lot like when I would get in Jesse's ear and kind of, try and give him some info or what he's talking about. But he appeared on CNN. He did this town hall, took questions from people, and he got fact-checked by this Caitlin Collins woman. So he goes on. In one of these first moments, Trump denies knowing E. Jean Carroll as he responds to the civil jury verdict. As you know, that verdict came down of Trump everything but raping this Jean Carroll woman, $5 million. Former President Donald Trump said he does not think a recent verdict in which a Manhattan federal jury found that he was liable for sexually abusing Jean Carroll will have an impact on women voters. And I remember that. Caitlin Collins was like, do you think women voters are going to be turned off about this whole thing? Basically, Caitlin Collins was basically admitting that women are too stupid and too easily influenced by clear and obvious, to anybody paying attention, clear, obvious witch hunt against Trump. Caitlin Collins was admitting that women are easily influenced by these lies. Trump said no, he doesn't see that. He doesn't think that would happen. He says, though, this woman, I don't know her, never met her, I have no idea who she is. Taken a picture with her years ago and her husband. He was a newscaster, very nice man. She called him an ape. Is that very nice man? She called him an ape. This is Trump talking about E. Jean Carroll. She called about her comments about her husband. She called him an ape. Happens to be African American. Called him an ape. Judge wouldn't allow us to put that in. In fact, I think I have a clip. I just took it off Daily Mail. Let's see if it jogs my memory of last night.
We had this great chemistry, and a few minutes later, we end up in a dressing room of Bergdorf Goodman, right near the cash register. And then she found out there were locks on the door, so she said, I found one that was open. She found one. She learned this at trial. She found one that was open. What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes, you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room, okay? I don't know if he was married then or not. John Johnson, I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr.
President. I feel sorry for you, John Johnson. Yeah, what kind of woman would do that? What the? Nobody's talking. Hey, what kind of woman? This apparently came out in the court that this happened, that she acted in such a manner. If that's so, well, isn't that the type of woman that might lie, that might have some ulterior motives? What type of woman? And you can hear the crowd. And that's how it was throughout the whole thing. The crowd loved everything Trump was saying. Did CNN pick this crowd? Did they vet the crowd? Did they do it on purpose? Are they playing 3D chess with us? All thoughts are lies, okay? But, yeah, the crowd was loving it. They were loving it. And then afterwards, when the CNN talking heads did their little post-game recap of the town hall meeting, they're like, appalled by the crowd. Like 3 different women just commented on the crowd saying, and I was appalled by the crowd, and the crowd, and the crowd. Sorry, y'all. That might be the American people. Let me see. Let me go down this. Just stupid stuff with this 𝒔𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔. But there was something else. It was that same clip, but something right after. Something right after Trump said about that meeting with 𝒔𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔. Whatever. Going down here, Trump says he had every right to take classified documents. That's true. And he calls Collins a nasty person. Do I have that? You're a nasty person.
That's the
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
the
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
You can't call a woman that. I remember the first time I called a girlfriend nasty. This was like early on, like years ago. Dating, still had a big head of curly hair, big old curly hair. Dating this girl, and she was going off. What was it about even? She was just so mad. We were coming home from there's this Canadian guy who owns Jiffy Lube, right? Who owns Jiffy Lube? He also owns a whole bunch of restaurants. Canadian, whatever. Look, we were coming home from that restaurant. She was mad about something, and she was just being so unfair and nasty. And I think I had just up until that point, I'd done what every guy did, just fight back and then say sorry and then weak, really. And I said, I looked at her and I was like, I could see her for what she was. And I was like, you're being nasty. You're being so nasty right now. Nasty to me, the person you say you love. And she lost it like I'd never seen a woman lose it up until that point. She was like, you calling me nasty, apologize, nasty. But and everything inside me wanted to say sorry. I now know it was the voice. I now know it's the ego. Satan wanted to keep his God, my God at the time. And everything inside was like, oh, you should apologize for calling her nasty. And I was like, no, but she's being nasty. Yeah, Hake, I'm looking at the TV. Let me turn it off. And I'm like, no, you're being nasty. And the next day she apologized. She was like, you're right, I was being nasty. Red-pilled. That red-pilled me. That radicalized me. That moment radicalized me. So shout out to Trump calling her nasty. Yeah, let's go down this. Let's finish this up real quick and get to my caller here. Get to my callers here, 888-775-3773. What else Daily Mail saying about this? He defends his comments on the Access Hollywood tape, saying he won't take it back. Obviously, we all know this is true. Stars, people, women around stars, they can't help how they act. Trump says he doesn't feel he owes former VP Mike Pence an apology for the J6 riot. Right, that was an awesome moment when he said, no, he did something wrong. He should have put the votes back to the state legislatures, and I think we would have had a different outcome, said Trump. Trump said this, CNN. Trump said this, YouTube. I'm just reporting the news. And he doubled down on this whole election shenanigans stuff. And look, I seeing stuff about polls that independents and moderate MAGA Republicans or whatever don't like it when he talks like that it's too divisive. And there's all this talk about it was the same old Trump. We saw the same old Trump. He's not talking about 2024. He's still stuck about talking about 2020. And some people, even on the right, some on the dissident right, they say that they call that weak too. They're like, oh, you sound like a big weak guy still talking about that stuff. When censorship about this topic is everywhere, YouTube, like I can't even talk about it that deeply because of YouTube. The guy is still, hey, I see it as strong, saying what nobody wants you to say, saying what you truly believe, despite the polls, despite what, despite how it might make some of your base feel. I think it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, and that's what they ask him about too. They're the ones that bring it up, 2020 and his stuff. That was like the first thing they asked him. Voters. Here's one clip of the voters some people who were asked about this town hall meeting afterwards.
Does it bother you that he keeps talking about 2020 and not 2024? I'll ask you first. This is Jonathan Leslie. He's 40, Republican, voted for Trump twice. How do you feel about those lies?
So I feel like part of it's also the media narrative, as you guys asked him the first question at the town hall about the 2020 election, rather than current stuff.
So don't you think you could say it's time for me to start talking about 2024 now?
Does it bother, if you can't hear it, does it bother you that he keeps talking about 2020, not 2024? That was the first question. Oh, he pigeonholed himself. He's the same old Trump. Yeah, he didn't finish his job. You know what I mean? Oh, it's the same old Trump. I'm seeing some people on the right, younger guys, they're like decrying Trump's speeches and stuff, saying he sounds like, are you even paying attention to what's going on? And I can understand these criticisms. I have my own criticisms of Trump. But it's like, it is the same movement. It didn't end. Anyways, I had more on that, but I forgot. What's left here? Trump Town Hall. There was another moment here. Refuses to acknowledge the 2020 stuff. Oh, yeah. Check this out. About the J6 people.
I am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say for every single one, because a couple of them probably they got out of control. But, when you look at Antifa, what they've done to Portland, and if you look at Antifa, look at what they've done to Minneapolis and so many other places. Look at what they did to Seattle and BLM. Many people were killed. These people, I'm not trying to justify anything.
Amazing. That is like such a just like expert way of responding to that, and not like false, not politician funny. It's just true. Not everyone. I mean, some of them probably did something worth something, but one of these big criticisms against Trump was that he riled everyone up to go to the Capitol, and he's like, oh, let's go together. And then they got thrown into jail, and he left them in there, okay? And that he left them to their own devices and just abandoned them. Abandoned his base that was there to fight for him. When he never wanted people, it's clear that he never wanted people to be violent or riot or do anything, although many of the ones who even went in were quite calm. To be in jail for just being in there is ridiculous. I know, because that's that's one of the angles right now. It's the peaceful ones, amongst the conservatives, the peaceful ones outside and the rioters inside. Even many of the ones who went inside were peaceful to an extent. But anyways, that's just perfect how he said it. Absolutely perfect. And then of course, his comments on Ukraine, just all around great. Look, I'm excited. Let's go, Trump. We still rolling with Trump. And he called Ashley Babbitt, the officer who shot Ashley Babbitt, a thug. And then the CNN talking heads right afterwards, that was their main thing. They're like, they said it like this, they called a black officer a thug. And everybody in the media knows thug is the new N-word. I mean, I don't believe that. It might be a tongue-in-cheek dog whistle sometimes, but I don't believe that. That's just so funny. But Trump standing up for Ashley Babbitt, the January Sixers, and beyond. Awesome stuff. That's it for town hall. What else? That's it. Let me check my media here. Stolen election. I can't play that. That's it, y'all. We're still rolling with Trump, right? Right. Let me get to Victoria out of Texas. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
What's up, Victoria? Thanks for calling. You've called me. You've called me before, have you?
A couple times.
On my show?
Yeah, when
yeah.
they have like a different background. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Victoria, let's get to your call. We just have a minute. We just have about a minute. Because actually, Jill, we got something to do in the studio, and I almost forgot. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to let you know that the town that we live in and our county, we're 100% Trump. And we do hold our, city council accountable for how they vote. Like, it's the bigger cities out here in Texas that are being overran with liberals. But out here, we're really like-minded people. It's called the Bible Belt. We're Christians, and we just want our country to be safe, no matter who they are that are coming in here.
Yeah.
And neighbors, we watch out for one another, and we just don't want our country to be, well, it is.
A lot of people want much simpler things than the media wants you to think. You know what I mean is like how you described, just general safety. You know what I mean? People don't really care about many of the things that they're put on TV. They've even complicated relationships between men and women. When men just they'll fall in love with a very plain-looking woman. You know what I mean? And a woman just wants love, wants real love and safety. So they've made everything complicated, Victoria.
They have, completely. But Trump gets back in there in 2024, we'll be okay, Nick.
Let's go.
He's going to finish the job that he started. So
and mass deport everyone. Right on,
hopefully
Victoria.
Not you and others.
Hey, we'll see what happens, right?
We'll see.
Victoria,
it's in God's
I'm
hands.
so sorry to cut you. I wish we could talk longer. I've been taking your calls for Jesse's show for so long. It's always a pleasure. Call me again. I have to end the show.
Always.
We're about to do another taping or something in the studio, and I gotta move on here.
Well, go on, bro. We'll talk to you later.
Call me again,
Have
Victoria.
a good day. I will, for sure.
Nice. Moving the wheels. All right, Bobby, Texas. Man, I really wanted to get to you, and I wanted to get to this story about surgeries. There's some surgeries that short people are getting. Medical advancements, quite fascinating stuff, and maybe a little horrifying. We'll get into it tomorrow. Your calls and more. Thanks for being with me. I'm the American Anchor, baby. Follow me, subscribe, and all that. I'll be back tomorrow. Maybe 12, maybe Nick stream time. Haven't decided. That's it. Take care, y'all. Peace.